Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. Cubs offense has been heating up the last couple of weeks. That somewhat coincides with the call-up of Christopher Morel. We'll take a look at the excitement surrounding him, plus the Cubs offense, and another highly anticipated Cubs debut is just hours away. We are almost one-third of the way through the season. Cubs are 22-30, 10 games back in the National League Central. In the middle of a 5-game series with St. Louis, Cubs and Cards have split the first two. A 7-5 Cubs win on Thursday, followed yesterday by a 12-4 loss. Marcus Stroman started strong, but ended up getting shelled. His ERA jumped by nearly a run and a half after giving up 9 runs in 4 innings yesterday. David Ross kept him in longer than he should have, undoubtedly to help conserve the bullpen ahead of today's doubleheader. 9-4 Cards. After 4, they added 3 in the 6th and then a pair in the 9th. Cubs only scored once in the final 5 innings. Talking about conserving the bullpen, they did that in the 9th. Frank Schwindel was DHing until he came in to pitch the 9th. Got 2 quick outs. Then he gave up back-to-back home runs. Eventually got the final out. Patrick Wisdom homered yesterday. His 12th of the season. 40th home run since being called up late May. Last year, he leads all third basemen in the majors in home runs during that time. Now, it's still tricky determining how good this Cubs team is. Most people say they've tanked. This is not a good team, maybe better next year. I say, well, okay, I'm not saying they're a great team, but I say they are a 500 team. And they have been streaky, and it seems to be working out close to 500, where they put together a 3 or 4 game win streak and then follow it up with a similar number of losses. They've done that a few times now. But since May 16th, Cubs offense has been coming alive, leading the majors in stolen bases. That's fun to see because I think base running is a lost art, and it's very key in situational offense. It's an overlooked piece of the offense and something that I would love to see more of, not just with the Cubs, but throughout Major League Baseball. Cubs are walking more, walk rate of over 10% since May 16th, and they are among the top 4 teams in runs and home runs during that same time frame. Patrick Wisdom off to a slow start to begin the year. It was, for him, seemingly a home run or bust. He's been getting more base hits, and Frank Schwindel getting it done now as well. Christopher Morel called up on May 17th. He's been a great story the last couple of weeks. There just seems to be a ton of positive energy radiating from him, and he's been pretty fun to watch as well. In fact, he's got 6 stolen bases the last couple of weeks. But is all of this sustainable? We've seen a number of Cubs players be called up. They put together a good 2 or 3 weeks, then they cool off. So what's next for Christopher Morel? We'll find out soon enough. They should have swept the 2 games last weekend on the south side, but recorded 3 blown saves before losing Sunday's game in extra innings. I don't recall a time of seeing 3 blown saves by one team in one game, but it happened last Sunday. And then the Cubs split a 4-game set with Milwaukee prior to this weekend series with the Cardinals. Now, the Cubs roster is like a complex puzzle that never has all of its pieces. Talking about injuries, especially with the starting rotation, Drew Smyly placed on the injured list this week with a right oblique strain. Those can be tricky, especially for pitchers. So I'm going to say he's not coming back for a while. Wade Miley and Alec Mills are working their way back. No hiccups for Miley so far. He's eligible to come back from the injured list next weekend. Alec Mills is eligible on Monday, but that's not going to happen right away. He's scheduled to start for AAA Iowa on Tuesday. Seiya Suzuki injured his hand on a slide to second base. No expected return date, but he is eligible to return in a couple of days. Yan Gomes working his way back from an injury as well. Cubs, meanwhile, caught a break when Wilson Contreras left Thursday's game after being hit by a pitch. X-rays were negative. He had Friday off, but he is in the starting lineup of Game 1 of today's doubleheader. More on that game shortly. Cubs are 22-30, 10 games behind Milwaukee in the National League Central. Cards are 30-22. Pittsburgh is 3rd in the division, same number of wins as the Cubs, but 2 fewer losses. Reds have put together a nice stretch of baseball. They started with just a historically bad start, 3-22 at one point. They've rallied back to 18-33, just 3.5 back of the Cubs. Keep in mind there's an extra wild card spot this postseason. Cubs are currently 6.5 games out. As it stands now in the National League, if you've got a winning record, you're going to be playing in October. Our This and That segment, news and notes from around the majors. Garrett Cole had a perfect game yesterday for the Yankees, took it into the 7th. It's the second straight game where a Yankees starter was perfect into the 7th inning. No team has had perfect game bids into the 7th in consecutive games in the last 60 years. Dodgers' rotation has been challenged with injuries to multiple starters, but Tyler Anderson is taking advantage of the opportunity. Shut down the Mets last night. He's got a 26-inning scoreless streak ongoing. That is impressive. Speaking of streaks, there are 2 25-game hit streaks right now. First time that's happened since 2011. Trey Turner with a 26-game streak for the Dodgers. Paul Goldschmidt right behind at 25 for St. Louis. And the Phillies fired their manager Joe Girardi yesterday. Team responded by beating the Angels 10-0 last night. Phillies are loaded with talent, but even with last night's win, the record only slightly better than the Cubs, 23-29. Cubs and Cards with a doubleheader this afternoon. One of the big stories heading into these games is the Cubs call-up of Caleb Killian. He'll start game 2 of today's doubleheader. And this is a story because it'll show us what the Cubs have received in all of those trades made last July. In this case, Killian, one of the prospects the Cubs received from the Giants in the Chris Bryant trade. He's got a great fastball. He's listed as 6'4" and 180, but they say in person he's actually far bigger. This year with Iowa, he's got 9 starts, ERA just over 2, in line with his minor league career average. And with injuries to others in the rotation, I say there's a decent chance Killian will get more than just one start, especially if it goes well tonight. One Cubs prospect not playing at Wrigley anytime soon is Brennan Davis. He was expected to play later this year, get called up eventually. That's not going to happen. He is out for a considerable amount of time due to recent back surgery. He hasn't played since early May anyway and had been struggling during his time with Iowa. Cubs and Cards playing 2 today, first game at 1:20 Eastern. Johan Oviedo for the Cardinals and Matt Swarmer for the Cubs. Oviedo making his first major league appearance of the year. He's faced the Cubs 4 times previously over the last couple of years. Cubs have won all of those games. Matt Swarmer coming off his debut against Milwaukee on Memorial Day. He went 6 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs given up, but only 1 earned. Both starters with little experience. I'm sure both managers are hoping to get their starters to eat as many innings as possible with at least 18 innings to be played today. Game 2, we'll see Andre Palente versus Caleb Killian, a bullpen game for the Cards, as Palente is great out of the bullpen for the Cards so far this year, but he's got no starts at the major league level, and he's not a guy who you think of in terms of eating many innings. I would say 3 innings today would be a big win if the Cards could get that from Palente. 25 innings so far in 17 appearances. Killian, meanwhile, is making his Cubs debut. You can catch Game 1 of today's doubleheader on Marquee Sports Network. It's on MLB Network as well. Tonight's game on Fox, and then ESPN has the game tomorrow night. Cubs have Monday off before 2 in Baltimore, Tuesday to Wednesday, and then Yankee Stadium next weekend. I think the Yankees are the best team in the majors. It'll be interesting to see how the Cubs can hold up. That's it for now. Follow us so you never miss an episode. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there too. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. This is the Bricks and Bleachers Podcast.